This is Brian Young, Super Bowl champ, 49er. You're listening to Matt and Dexter on The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive football app that lets you call what you think an offense or defense will do in a live NFL game and compete against others across the country. Check it out at gridironmo.com or at thegruelingtruth.net. I'm your host, Matt Andruscavage, for the 49er Weekly Show. I'd like to welcome in my co-host, former 49er running back, Dexter Carter.
Hey, it's great to be back and have an opportunity to talk about the 49ers' future and the recent draft that the 49ers had and the excitement that surrounds the organization. Seems like they really was on point with this 2017 draft, and we'll get into some of those choices and hopefully, get the 49er fans excited a little bit more.
Oh, definitely. I mean, We've there's been a little bit of time has passed between the draft and right now, but that gives us a little bit of chance to go over some additional film and just some things that we've seen and what we think of the players a couple weeks in. And boy, I'll tell you, I was pretty stoked on draft night and all three nights, and I really feel like the Niners did a good job over that weekend.
The Niners definitely did a good job, and excited me as a former player and a fan, wanting them to get back to what we once were, and they didn't disappoint. This new regime of the front office came in with a plan, came in with a strategy, and their picks proved that they knew what they were doing. They had did their homework, they had did their proper evaluation, and they were ready to make the trades that they needed to get the players that they did. And then they, made sure that we understood, everybody understood that, yes, we've got Kyle Shanahan here who will bring his offensive system, and, through free agency, we'll get the players that we need to build this offense. But we've got to have a solid defense to go along with these great guys that we drafted, over the last few years, and that's what they did. They came in and was very, very fortunate to get two really first-round draft picks within the first 31 picks, and then made a smart, move up to actually get that second first-round pick. But they did a good job throughout that entire draft, as well as the other NFL teams did, I believe, overall. It was just a great year for the NFL and the draft that happened, the players that were available, and so this first round, a lot of players are going to help the teams that they went to. And I believe the 49ers is one of those teams that will be helped by this group of guys that they drafted this year.
I agree completely. I think there's at least 5 guys that will be either starting this year or getting enough playing time that they will make a significant impact year one. And that's awesome when you can get 10 draft picks and half of them can really impact your first year.
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at the first pick, Solomon Thomas, who, won supposedly best fits a 3-technique, but, it could be inside or outside, really. But when you take him and put him alongside, that presence of, Buckner and Armstead, it allows, the 49ers to be very flexible up front. And I think that's what they were looking for. That's why they made him the number 1 pick. So, and then they go on and, get someone that can sit back there with NaVorro Bowman, that in itself with that defensive front and that linebacker group will make what has been a problem area, the last few years in the secondary, may make that a little bit better. We'll talk about Witherspoon from Colorado and then, the DB from Miami a little bit later, but it will make that entire secondary a little bit better because whenever that quarterback can't hold on to the ball, he's got to get out of that pocket, or get rid of the ball quick. it helps that secondary, especially a young group or inexperienced group when they've got to develop over time, and then they give them time to learn the system without being overwhelmed with trying to defend tremendous great receivers. But as we get into Witherspoon later, when you talk about, his height and his size, he can really defend some bigger receivers, that will be part of the teams that the 49ers will play this year. But defense is definitely what wins championships, and they really focused on it in this draft.
You're talking about Solomon Thomas, and I don't know if you were watching day one or just kind of watching social media at all, but what was your reaction when you found out that the 49ers made that trade? That's kind of what I was hoping for. I was sitting there going, okay, I really hope they trade out of this number 2 pick and acquire something, because I wasn't sure what they wanted at the 2 spot. What was your reaction when they only had to move down 1 spot and they acquired 3 additional picks for the guy that they actually wanted it anyways?
Well, I tell you what, that was a brilliant move by Lynch, because, in his first draft, now I know he's got people behind the scenes that they put together a great team. And I'm going to tell you somebody who don't get mentioned, but they brought Martin Mayhew in, and I'm telling you, Martin Mayhew, exactly. I'm sure they all had a lot to do with this here. But nonetheless, what they did, when they moved back, I thought somebody was going to move up and get Solomon. That's why I wasn't, quite excited about it initially, because I'm thinking, but your guy. So they had to know something that we didn't know, to move 1 spot and still get the guy that they wanted, But, again, I surely wouldn't thought Chicago would have moved up and got Trubisky. So, brilliant move by the 49ers, moved down 1. Still got to pay big money to this young man, but still was able to do what was more valuable than, to get him 1 slot down, pay him a little less money, but they got these extra draft picks. That was very, very key in the rest of this draft and how it came together.
Right. One of the things they say about Solomon Thomas, you watch him, and he gets off the ball so fast. And they're the comparison that I've seen is John Randall. He's like 6'4", 255. That's kind of John Randall height and weight. And you were talking about the 3 technique. He can play outside. He can play inside. I see him moving around a lot, especially on passing downs. I could see him being. They can move him pretty much wherever, except obviously at nose tackle. That would be not wise. But on passing downs, I could see him playing inside or outside.
Yes, but what's interesting, as he develops, he does have that versatility to be able to move. And if you notice, not comparing him to the Texans big time end.
J.J. Watt?
And thank you. And I should not even forget his name. So it must be late here in Georgia. But there are times, just because they have the ability to do it, they move him around, not just on the edges on both sides, but they move him around that nose area in that 3 technique and over the center a little bit. And what it does is it confuses the offensive line. But when you look at the talent and skill level of Buckner and Armstead, and now Thomas, and they're, and don't forget about those other guys, that don't have the big name that is still there on that defensive line. I'm telling you, there's nothing better for a team than to be able to have 2 groups that can flow in and out. Back in the day, that's what we had. We could put guys in, to make sure our guys stayed fresh so they could come off the ball, like a Thomas can. You mentioned John Randall. He was like a Tasmanian devil. But you know what? You got to have guys that are quality backups that could really start, but it keeps the guys fresh. And when they're fresh, man, you know what? Those offensive linemen have a tough time, trying to take that open step or whatever it is to get these guys and keep them off of their quarterback. So Solomon fits the mold of what the 49ers want to do, and they've got a great group of guys there on that front line that have the potential to make it happen.
Yeah, I really like teaming him up with Armstead and Buckner. And, I remember, like you had mentioned, it's one of the things that, kind of came to mind. You can't have too many defensive linemen. That's what George Seifert's defenses were always built on, having, basically like two groups of pass rush. He would sub guys in and out very quickly, and he'd always have guys fresh. And Dennis Brown talked about that too when he's been on the show. And I think that's really, really good for your pass rush, always having fresh bodies in there.
Absolutely. So there's no doubt that's what's going to happen with the 49ers. So it's going to be really exciting, my man.
Well, and then you have at the end of the first round, the New Orleans Saints look like they're going to get Reuben Foster. They're on the phone with him, and the Niners use one of the draft picks that they acquired from Chicago. So they just kind of threw that in there with Seattle and be able to move back into the first round and grab probably the best middle linebacker in the draft, Reuben Foster. He hangs up on New Orleans when he finds out the Niners are after him. And now you got a guy who can really plug up that middle and play alongside NaVorro Bowman, forming quite a linebacker tandem if they're both healthy this year.
Yeah, and you know what? And, a lot of people may have thought the 49ers were going to slip in there and get a quarterback at this time. And, yes, I was hoping Deshaun Watson would become a 49er. But, he's going to do well in Houston. But what the 49ers get with Foster, if you take away Foster's incident, at the hospital in Indianapolis, or the diluted sample, drug test, and he was going to be a number 2 overall pick. So
right.
Just to put in perspective what the 49ers got, because those two things there, the kid didn't have any issues there at Alabama, and those two things there can, those can be fixed. You don't throw a kid to the wolves, throw him out, because of those things. You still do your homework and see if those things are going to become a habit. And they obviously didn't think, for the 2nd pick overall, nobody was going to take a chance. But when you're number 31 and you have a chance to get this kid, you can take all the criticism that someone's going to give you, because when this kid jumps on the field and he and Bowman together, people are going to forget all about that, because this duo right here could bring back memories of Bowman and Patrick Willis. And, now
yep.
That's saying a lot, because Willis and Bowman was awesome. But this is going to bring back reminiscences of those two guys.
Yeah, I totally see the same thing. He's just, the guy's just a wrecking machine back there. One of the knocks against him is he had some missed tackles last year. So there's times where he'll miss guys, but most of the time he's wrapping up. He's causing destruction, and he gets in these. He looks like some of these plays. He goes into what looks like a pile of guys, and then comes out clean and makes the play. And you're like, how did he do that?
Right,
but he's just very, very talented, and I think he's going to play inside linebacker at a very high level and probably be on the field most of the time.
Absolutely. And one thing that you're going to get with Foster, too, is you're going to get a NFL-ready player, because Alabama and Nick Saban, the strength program they've got, and the NFL teaching that they teach these guys. These guys are coming into the NFL ready to play. So from a nutritional perspective, all of that, weight room, these guys are ready. All they got to do is just jump on the train and ride. And that's what Foster's going to do. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if if he has 100% good bill of health. This kid really, I'd be surprised if by the last preseason game or two, he's not starting with Bowman. And who knows, he may be there in the very beginning. Maybe not, but it won't take him long to get there.
Right, exactly. There's, there's enough guys that could fill if he's not quite ready. But boy, I gotta believe there's a real good chance that if his shoulder is okay, like it looks like it is, that he's got a great chance to be a starter this year.
Yeah. I'm very happy for the young man, because usually when there's different levels of off-season, pre-draft issues that guys get into, and there are some more serious than what his was. But when you feel like you got a second chance and somebody has enough trust in you and belief that they take you, I tell you, this young man here wants to reward the 49ers for selecting him, and I don't think either side is going to be disappointed.
I agree. So let's talk about that corner from Colorado, Ahkello Witherspoon. I know that you were pretty big on him, and what do you see as far as his ability and how he fits into the team?
There's really hadn't been a standout playmaking difference maker at corner in quite some years. But you take this young man, first of all, what got my attention was, you're looking at a kid, with his height and ability to go up for the ball, and there's so many big receivers now that, 5'10", 5'11" guy still with his hips, his feet, his transition, how he transitions his body, can still make great plays. But when you have a guy, I believe he's 6'2", 6'3", and how he's going to be able to defend these big receivers, we could have a kid that can, be reminiscences of Cromartie and again, I can't believe I'm forgetting Sherman. Thank you very much. Sherman, I mean, the impact they can have on a game, that's what I think Witherspoon, can have. He gives them the potential to have an impact player, on all three levels, which we hadn't had in a while. We got impact players on that defensive front. I mean, potential to have two awesome impact playmakers there at the linebacker position. And I think, Witherspoon, has that, because everybody wants, the antidote, against teams with big receivers. And that's what he gives us the potential for. So I'm excited for him. And, later on, round 7 don't seem like a whole lot. But, when you get a talented player like Colbert out of Miami, the talent that Miami and Florida, those Florida teams have, this kid here, is chomping at the bits, to have an opportunity to make, a pro team and show that, coming out of Miami, that he's worthy of a player that should have been drafted way before round 7. So these two guys here, I think, are really going to push, one, to make this team, which I don't see him. Witherspoon, definitely, I see him making this team. But, Colbert has the opportunity to show that, one, you didn't just get one good cornerback in this draft. You got two. So it's going to be exciting to see the development of those two guys.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, you being pretty up on Miami College or Florida college teams, what you thought of Adrian Colbert. Because, to be honest, once you get to the 7th round, it's hard to really know, for me, a whole lot about a lot of these guys until I do extra stuff after the fact for research and stuff. But I know you really dig the Florida college games and stuff. So you feel pretty good about the value they got with Adrian Colbert at the 7th round?
I feel like in round 7, pick 11, number 229 overall, I say you get the best player on the board, and I think he was at that time. And, I don't know the specifics and details of why, he was down so far. But I tell you what, I've seen a whole lot of round 7 guys in the number 200+ that have made NFL teams and made Pro Bowls, won Super Bowls, and been and made the Hall of Fame. So I'm not saying he's close to that, but what I'm saying is, he's a Miami kid, and you know the type of kid that comes out of Miami. So I think he's got a chance, and we'll see when training camp comes and how he continues to develop, how he picks up what they want him to do within the system that they have. But you won't have to worry about a player being competitive, because he will be competitive.
I'm definitely hoping to see him out there, because the corner's been such a problem area. If they can resolve that in a big way this year with these two guys, that would be big. One of the guys that I'm looking forward to seeing is Joe Williams, running back out of Utah. They took a chance on him in the 4th round. He fell. He had that small retirement. I mean, the guy had personal tragedy in his life with his little sister dying in his arms some years ago, and he's just been struggling with that. And he kind of retired for a little while to get some help, and came back and had a really good senior year. And this is kind of another thing, kind of like Reuben Foster. If the off-field stuff is good, I mean, this guy could be a real home run threat. I mean, he's fast. This guy can break runs like crazy, and could be a very interesting number 2 running back in this offense.
Yeah, and he is one of those players that as you said, he's had a very interesting situation. But being there in the Pac-10, a very productive young man, and all of his issues put aside, who knows what this young man can do. But again, he has an opportunity, he's already reached his dream, which is make it to the NFL. So if he can, continue to get past some of these, disappointments he's had, and, a lot of sadness, but the kid can play. He can play. And, hopefully in honor of George Seifert, hopefully his Utah, this player here can represent his Utah youth very well. And we may have to tell people, what I meant when I said that, because, the wonderful coach that followed Bill Walsh there with the 49ers, won a Super Bowl, the year after Bill Walsh, retired, and then, of course, won another one in 1994, and he's the one that drafted me, but he went to University of Utah. So he always made sure we knew he was proud of his Utah youth. I think that's who they are. But this young man, I really hope that he can step in and make a statement, and make this ball club. They gave him a great opportunity here in the 4th round. I mean, that's pretty good for what he's gone through. So he definitely doesn't like talent. He's got talent, and we'll see exactly what he's able to do. And right now, what the 49ers are looking for, in my opinion, I think Hyde is still the guy. If he stays healthy, Hyde can, in my opinion, prove to be what I thought he was in the very beginning. A top-tier running back in the NFL. But to have some quality backups definitely won't hurt.
Yeah, I still like Hyde to be the number 1 running back. I like Tim Hightower. I thought that was a good pickup, especially what he can do out of the backfield. And then having, man, I mean, you watch Joe Williams and the speed that he brings. I mean, this really could be a very, very interesting running back core. And we know how Kyle Shanahan likes to use running backs differently. So I think this backfield will be pretty good. They'll all have their strengths, and they should be able to do a lot of damage.
Yeah. He caught my eye early in the season when he played UCLA, and I'm sorry, you don't find many running backs. 330 plus yards. You don't usually see that. And UCLA, is a well coached, team coached by, Coach Morrow there, and this kid here just shredded them. So he's got some potential. You talked about his speed and his ability. The kid definitely has what it takes to make this team. If he's got his everything straight in his head, and his business, like to him, which it seemed like to me, when he showed up, his first day to the 49ers after being drafted, man, the young man showed up in a, two-piece dark suit, man. I mean, he was dressed to the T. He showed up for business. So if that's any indication of what's to come, he's coming to work.
For sure. We'll talk about just a couple other players in this draft, because there's the two guys that were drafted in the 5th round. I think one of them will be a starter this year, and the other one will be in the lineup enough that you'll probably think of him as a starter. They drafted George Kittle, the tight end out of Iowa, which is interesting because they got C.J. Beathard out of Iowa at quarterback in the 3rd round. So to me, you watch him on film, this guy's probably the most gifted athletic tight end in this class. I mean, all respect to O.J. Howard. I mean, you look at the speed of Kittle and the athleticism, they got an absolute steal here in the 5th round, and they're already looking at trying to trade Vance McDonald. I'm not sure if Garrett Selleck's going to make it. Kittle could end up starting for the whole season.
Yeah, Kittle is look at the system they had, at Iowa. That's why they like Beathard so much, because,
right.
They were in a pro-style offense, and, you got, 2 kids from there who, they're coached well, and you talked about the possibility of, Kittle starting. Well, that's not really a shock, because that's a good pick for round 5. He has the ability. He's got the quarterback there that threw to him. So I think this kid could start from day one. He's going to have an opportunity to show there in training camp. And by the way, talking about Beathard, you do know who that is, right? Who he's related to?
Oh, I did see this. His grandfather, I believe, was a player in the 50s or 60s.
Well, his grandfather, Bobby Beathard, who was the general manager for the San Diego Chargers when I played.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah. So it's just so he's grown up, really with the lifelong goal of making it to the NFL. But fortunately for Beathard, he has the talent, to make it in the NFL. So that's exciting, to have him on the 49ers from my perspective, because, somebody who has watched it, seen it, been around it. Dad was very influential in the NFL. This kid here, when he and Lotto played together, trust me, or Kittle, I believe both of these young men are ready to have a great, training camp and let the chips fall where they may at that point, just based on where they stack up. But I think both of those guys are going to, have an opportunity to have good careers here in the NFL.
Right, and at 6'4", 250, the guy's a good blocker in the run game, and he's got everything that you need. And he was exciting to watch in Iowa, so I'm excited for what he can do here. And then the other guy, Trent Taylor, wide receiver, he's only like 5'8". He's out of Louisiana Tech, but man, he just reminds me of like a Julian Edelman or a Cole Beasley or a Danny Amendola, someone like that just catches everything thrown his way, and he's shifty enough that he's hard to cover in the slot, and he will be a slot guy.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I was going to say, that he's your prototypical slot guy that they allow to go in motion, allowed to be off the ball, so he don't get banged up, held a whole lot, and he can find those zones to sit in or catch the ball, in man situations running across the field. He's that type of player. And I've watched him play a little bit, there at Louisiana Tech. Skip Holtz, who is Lou Holtz's son, is the head coach there, friend of mine. And I tell you, he knows how to recruit those speedy receivers like that. And they used him well. So he's got a chance, to find his position there. When you watch what Kyle Shanahan has done in Atlanta, this kid here, trust me, Kyle had a lot to do with this pick here because he sees the possibilities. So he's got a chance if he goes out there, understands, understanding the system, learning it quickly, and taking advantage of the opportunity when he gets it, because he won't get a whole lot of chances early on. But when he do get those chances, if he can show that quickness and that mobility he has and catch the ball, make people miss, oh, man, he'll get more reps. And with more reps comes opportunity to make plays. And so, he could make the final, 54-man roster too.
Yeah, I like the idea of, Pierre Garçon kind of being the one, Marquise Goodwin, the speedy guy they got out of Buffalo, kind of being the split end, the guy who's able to kind of take the top off of defense, keep those safeties back, and then you have Taylor who can, be that slot guy. I like the pieces they put together for this offense, and I do trust what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are doing so far. There's every reason to believe that they're going to be able to build an effective offense right out of the gate.
Yeah, Taylor has a little bit of that. Even if we can just get some of what Tavon Austin has, there in L.A., he kind of reminds me of that a little bit. So we'll see, how he develops.
Right. So, there's a couple other guys, the sixth-rounder, they got DJ Jones, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. And then the other sixth-rounder, Pita, I'm always going to try to – I struggle with the last name. I think everyone is so far, but it looks like it's Taumopanu, the linebacker out of Utah. But, once you get in the late picks, these are guys that they'll have a shot at making the roster, and maybe a couple of years into their rookie contracts, they hopefully see some action on the field. But I really feel like Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, and Witherspoon will be defensive starters day one, and I think Kittle's going to be the tight end, and I think Taylor's going to be, the regular slot receiver in this offense. So that's 5 guys right out of the gate in this draft that probably have a really good chance of getting significant playing time, if not starting.
Absolutely. There hadn't been a draft in a while where you've had 5 legitimate possibilities that could be starters, either here soon or eventually. So you never know. But, again, there's nothing here in this draft that made me, and I believe you, and surely hopefully the fans look and, kind of shrug our shoulders at what in the heck are the 49ers doing. This new regime started out right and gave us a chance to really get some good guys that can be a part of this team, for a long time.
Yeah, appears to, ending this 3-year drought of just bad football.
Yeah,
it isn't. I really believe. I think most fans are hopefully keeping their expectations tempered. I think 7-9, 8-8 is a possibility, and that's 10-6, 11-5 is probably not realistic. It'd be nice if it happens. I hope it does, but I'm thinking somewhere between 7-9, 8-8, maybe 9-7, if a few things go Niners' way, would be a very, very successful season. Just being in games as opposed to letting teams run all over you and stuff. I just don't think we're going to see that this year. I think they're going to be pretty competitive.
Right, and being in games means that, you've got a defense that can run around the field and keep the score, in my opinion, under 24 points. And if we can do that, I believe eventually this offense that is so dynamic and they start putting players in position to accelerate this offense, I believe you're going to have a chance, to possibly see a better record than what anyone anticipates, even in this first year, with Kyle Shanahan and that staff that he brought in. So the possibilities at this point are predicated on, let's see, health, and seeing how well these guys fit into the roles that they're put into. So we'll see how quickly it evolves.
I agree. So, I thought it was, all in all, was a good draft so far. I think the off season has been very exciting at a bare minimum, and most fans have got to be just much happier with the direction of the team, the way it looks like the GM and the coach are working together. You can tell that they're on the same page. They're drafting guys that they're both agreeing on. They seem to have one vision, and there looks to be a lot of buy-in with the front office. So I'm looking forward to see how that's going to translate in the locker room and on the field this year.
Yeah, a lot of continuity. That's what I like, and seems like we've changed coaches too many times over the last few years, and we've talked about it over and over that the coaches are changing, but it seems like at some point the front office needs some changes. Now they both have happened. Let's see if now that can remedy the situation.
For sure. Well, we'll definitely be looking to get back on here and on the airwaves and throughout the rest of the off season, and just go over notable events. There's a lot of things happening in the team calendar. We got OTAs coming up, and then mini camps and training camp. So there's going to be a lot of things going on. There's going to be changes coming up in a few weeks. There's going to be June 1st cuts across the league, and there's going to be all kinds of veterans out there, and you just never know if there's going to be one or two more veterans added to this roster. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
So, you got any final words for tonight?
No, just end the show, the way the draft ended, which was a lot of excitement and optimism, and going forward, the grueling truth, 49er Weekly Show. Hey, we're going to have some exciting talks here this off season, about the 49ers and getting ready. We're prepping too. We've had our draft, and you know what? We have repeat first-round draft picks. Me and you, we're back, and we're gonna continue to give good storylines for the 49ers, and with one goal, and that's going into the season with 54-man roster and a 2-man roster on our show, and let's have a great year.
All right. I'm looking forward to that as well. So be sure to stay tuned in to the 49er Weekly Show, and also catch everything that's out on the GrillingTruth.net's website. We've got articles and other podcasts and all kinds of stuff going on. In fact, Evander Holyfield will be our boxing guest this weekend on our boxing show. So there's all kinds of stuff out there. No matter if you don't just like football, there's lots of other stuff that we cover on the Grueling Truth. So be sure to check all that out. And if you don't mind, give us a good rating for the 49er Weekly Show on iTunes or Google Play. That would be we'd appreciate that. So for Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the 49er Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.